And they said the only place that they would have a current record would be, and that's what you need is a current one.
Right.
We got online and found some '08s and
My
'07s,
freshman.
but Kevin said the best bet to get it current is to go through Virginia. They would have everything.
Huh.
And they're just transferring
Well, I kind of thought maybe that soil conservation would, but
it. Yeah, and,
I did start us, I started the recording and we can actually get started with the rodeo club if you guys are ready for that.
I'm ready.
I am, if you guys are, I just wanted
Right.
to.
Update us?
Well, yeah, update as to what's going on with the insurance. I know that was a concern, and so I went down and I talked to Julie down at Centennial Insurance. And to insure the buildings out there is $2,188 a year.
Is that just your building?
That's just our buildings. That's the concession stand, the beer stand, both ticket offices, the horse barn, the grandstands, and the office up there. And that's, the thing of it is I talked with another insurance agent in Helena. And Julie's going, apparently, I'm not sure where she's getting her figures as to the, it's not a replacement cost. I think she said that these figures that she got as to the worth of those items was what was on, listed as county assets when the county had listed them on their sheet, and that covered the whole thing at that time with blanket policy. Because she's got a horse barn out there, those horse barns, she's got them listed at $38,000.
No way.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said, no way, you know.
No.
I said, you know what the buildings are like and one thing to another. She's got the grandstands alone, just the wooden part of the grandstands at $209,000. She's got $379,000. I totaled all the stuff up there. $379,000. And I think that is why the insurance is so much higher, you know, $2,200 for fire insurance out there for those buildings and one thing and another. When there's no, essentially, there's no contents in them. The
They're
concession
just there.
stand has a stove in it, and hot water heater, and an old fridge and freezer and stuff like that, but those others are just bare buildings and one thing and another. And that horse barn is just a pole barn with sides and metal roof.
What is the dimensions of that? Do you remember?
I really don't. There's eight stalls down each side, and the stalls are 8 by 10, I think. And then you've got the alleyway down the middle, so they'd probably be 30 feet wide and 80 feet long or thereabouts. I don't even think they're that long. I think they're more like 60 by.
I don't know where she would get, well, because from whoever she's talked to, 38,000. That's unreal.
Yeah, the little ticket booth, the handicap one, you know, which is tiny, about the size of that desk over there. She's got that thing listed at $7,000. We didn't put $7,000 in it when we built it. And
Did
it's
you tell her
brand
that?
new. I told her all of that and one thing and another, and she says, well, and the agent I talked to in Helen, he said, what you'd probably have to do is get an appraiser, hire you an appraiser, go in there and appraise them at today's cost and go from that. And that's the only way you could do it.
Can you get just liability, not replacement cost, or, it seems to me these are probably replacement cost at today's prices and today's, top-notch materials versus,
Well-
just replacing what's there.
You know, and I tried to explain to her that what was going on and one thing and another. And that to have, if one would burn down, if the horse barn was to burn down, I mean, the members are all volunteer help in one thing or another. All we'd have to do is buy the materials. And I would bet you there's not $8,000 worth of materials in that thing.
No.
you know.
Yeah, these prices look like they reflect Davis Waking. Davis Bacon wages and an architect and,
A lot.
yeah.
Which brought me to another thing. If one of them was to burn down, see, the other commissioners, if we were gonna spend over $1,500 out there, it had to be with your okay. When the other commissioners were here. We had to get their okay. And in fact, if, to do when we were gonna tear down the announcer stand and build a new one, because it was on public ground, and they were going to have us hire an architect. It was gonna cost us $15,000 before we ever got started. So what we did is just, we took the old one down, cut it in half, and kind of remodeled it and put it back up. That's the only way we could get away with it, without costing an arm and a leg. And I'm just wondering what would happen if one of them was to burn down now, the building. Are we gonna have to go back in and have an engineer come and look at all of this stuff and one thing and another, draw us up plans? Or are we gonna be able to just go back in there?
As close as those two are to get, if one goes, the other one's.
The other one will, oh yeah.
Yeah.
They'll both go. Which, if they both go, then a guy could maybe go out there and put up a bigger metal one or something like that. But the thing of it is, and maybe that's what they're looking at the $37,000, $38,000 replacement cost on one. Which brought me to thinking, if that's the case on ours, what are you guys paying for yours as far as, I can understand the 4-H building, the commercial building, and the big barn, but that little roping barn out there, if they've got that as a, I guess if it's listed as an asset for you guys, the higher it is, the better it looks. But replacement, one thing and another, when you go looking at the insurance, if, of course, you're on a blanket policy, so it probably wouldn't make any difference, I guess.
Ours is pretty well wrapped up with everything.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, building wise, clear across the county. So that little thing, but it sure hurts us having to buy fire insurance. That's why I was wondering if anything had come back. The other thing is, what would Mako say if we just had that building itself? Fire, and I don't know whether we could even get fire insurance for just that building. I don't know.
The barn.
Yeah, that horse barn. Because that's the one adjacent to yours.
What if you weren't with Mako's Insurance? What if you went to, say, Farm Bureau or another insurance company, shopped around?
That's, well, see that, and that's the thing, I talked to one in Helena, but they said in order to get these figures, what we're gonna have to do is get an appraiser. We're gonna have to hire an appraiser. And I'm just wondering, and an appraiser had come out, I haven't had anything appraised for a lot of years, but the last time I had our place appraised, it was, that was 12 years ago. It was $280 then. So I don't know. The thing I'm getting at is trying to protect the rodeo club in one thing and another, and I know what the directors are thinking. I've talked to several of them. We're just adding cost on cost on cost. That, to be honest with you, it puts us where we're making less and less every year, you know, because the costs are going up, and we're not. Everybody complains about the cost to get into the rodeo and one thing and another, but you go to Helen and you go to some of these others, and we haven't raised ours for quite a few years, and it's still pretty cheap to get into the rodeo out there. So we're making less and less as far as profit, which isn't really a profit because it all goes back in. We spend it all back in one thing and another. And the other thing is, if we have to buy all this stuff or pay for all this stuff, what it's gonna amount to is our scholarship that we give out, high school scholarship, the money we give to the fire department, the money we give to the hospital and some of the other organizations, Rotary and one thing and another. We're gonna have to cut them out, you know, in order to do this. So I think what we need to do is really put our heads together and see if we can't figure this out. And I have talked to, like I say, I've talked to another agent, but what they suggested was we get a appraiser in there, and I guess that's what we're gonna have to do. If Mako is going to push this, that we need fire insurance.
I said to your advantage to get that appraisal, so you go to, everybody can bid the same way.
Right, if we're gonna, and this is what the other directors, see, we have 5 directors, and then we have president and vice president. We went back to the old bylaws and one thing, you know. So I don't even have a vote in the whole thing. The 5 directors are the ones, and I talked to 3 of the directors, I couldn't get a hold of them, but I talked to 3 of them. They're a little up in the air that we have to go in and do this and one thing, and to be honest, they think it's you 3 that are pushing for us to get fired. And I explained to them, we haven't had a meeting, but one-on-one I've explained to them, it's not you guys, this is coming from, because it's on leased ground and it's Mako, that your insurance, Mako's insurance that is pushing for it.
Why would they think it's us 3? What do we get? What would we gain out of that?
I know,
I mean, that
but
doesn't make sense to me.
it's county, and usually in the past, anything that has went on out there that's came from Mako or the county and one thing, and another, to be honest with you, was the other commissioners. They're the ones that pretty well pushed for it, so.
Huh.
And then this came up, and of course,
Comes with the job title, doesn't it?
well, it does, yeah.
Yeah.
Comes with the territory.
Yeah.
That's right, so what I wanted to do was tell you we're kind of where we are in one thing and another. The other thing is if this drags on, what can we do as far as contract? Do we sign a contract, or do we have to wait until we really get this whole thing settled? And speaking of the contract, who gets the check for the rent?
With the what?
For the rent?
County treasurer, Doug.
Do we send the whole thing to you guys? It's city county, so does $5 go to them and $5?
It all goes to you, doesn't it? And then you put it in the different funds? Yeah, so you only.
So the
write
city
one
gets their
check.
share, I mean, that's, you know,
Yeah,
But
but
a
not from
share.
you.
right.
You don't have to worry
Yeah,
about.
no, yeah. That was one thing Mel was wondering, he says, who gets the check? He says,
Sure.
Do we write one check, do we write 2 checks or what? So,
And that's a fair question.
but that's something that they wanted me to find out as to, what, you know, are we gonna drag this out and continue dragging it out till we, and, you know, you said that the gentleman that was insurance or whatever, something had passed, and
Mm-hmm.
so now we don't know how long they're gonna put somebody in or whatever, and how long we'll get back with an answer. Could be several months, and so we'd just kinda like to get things settled, you know, one way or the other, as far as the contract goes.
Mhm.
Well, did Julie find out, can we insure something
No.
that we don't own?
No. The reason it was insured is, as I was saying, it was listed as assets for the county, and that's when it was insured. And that was about 5 years ago when we took that off. That's when we found out that you guys had it all listed, that's when the new contract and one thing and another, and we made out the whole list, and then one thing and another, and we found out that you guys were listing it. I think that's where Gail was coming from, that the county owned all of that stuff out there and one thing and another, because it was listed on the data sheet and one thing and another as an asset for you guys. You guys, it was showing there that everybody, I mean, you guys owned everything out there, the grandstands, the arena, everything. We didn't have nothing.
It's
And-
funny you haven't come to us for paint then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we should have, you know, maintenance and one thing, then, but we knew, you know, and when they fought over the new contract and one thing and another, then we pulled that all back out of there, we got it all off of that as an asset. It shouldn't be listed anywhere, I haven't checked on
I
the budget
haven't
sheets
either,
and
but
one
I
thing
don't
and
think
another,
it
but
is.
I'm assuming that it's not on there anymore.
That's my assumption.
Yeah. But there again, I think Natalie's the one, I think she was in there when she took it off and assured us that it was off there, and I'm not sure, I never did go back and look, we just assumed that it was taken off.
I think that's a fair assumption.
But yeah, in reference to the question, no, the county can't really insure anything that you don't own, unless, now, the way it was kinda explained to me is if we turned all those buildings over to you, we own them, we lease them to you guys can insure them.
Is there a problem with that with the board?
Well, the board wouldn't go for that,
Even though you'd still own them?
the board wouldn't go for that, I'm sure.
Okay, because they want a
I mean,
solid line.
Yeah, Yeah, they do,
Oh,
they wanna, and the thing of it is, it's kind of the mentality of what's went on, not way back, but say 10 years ago, and one thing, there was a lot of difficulty with the county, with the commissioners, the fair board, just a lot of perception that, you know. So I think now, the feeling I got from the board members I talked to is, boy, they don't want, and, you know, like I said, let's give it to the county and let's just lease it back from the county. Let's give everything to the county out there. Turn it over to you guys. Give it to you. We'll lease it back for the time we want it and.
Would it help, John, to get together and talk? You know, your board, this board, some evening out at the rodeo grounds?
When it's warmer, it's cold out there right now.
Kidding, yes.
And see, we usually meet down to the chambers where we usually meet
Okay,
during the winter months. We usually don't go out there until about June. It's usually too cold to go out there.
We could meet right here as far as that goes.
we certainly could.
In May, we could. I mean, we're having a meeting Monday, the 10th, right? March, yep, the 10th. Yeah, we're having a meeting Monday and I can suggest it and see what they think. I mean, tell them kind of where we're at and one thing and another.
You know, we had the same kind of deal, different story, but the rural fire district and the planning board were just absolutely at odds for years, and it went back about 10 years. And we had a series of meetings over pizza, and actually finally got regulations where the two had actually come together. And it just makes me think maybe we could have a meeting over pizza, the commission could buy the pizza, and maybe see about repairing this relationship, because this is a new commission, it's not the same one of 10 years ago.
Right.
And then maybe look at some options so that you guys can still maintain control of those buildings, but maybe we could perhaps help with that insurance.
Right, okay.
The coverage is there, which is the important thing, doesn't hamper you guys, and really for our insurance, $2,000 on top of what we're already paying is not that much.
Well, see, if you guys, under a blanket policy, it probably wouldn't even raise the premium,
Exactly
your
would be
premium,
it,
you know.
yeah.
It wouldn't do anything at all.
I guess we could check into that.
Yeah.
Julie.
I mean, we cut 50% off of our insurance, with something we did with the detention center. So I think the overall number for the
Mhm.
county is gonna go down even if we were to add this full 2188.
Yeah. You want me to ask Julie what your insurance would go up if you guys owned them all?
Sure.
I mean,
Please.
I've got to go down there anyway, and one thing and another.
That would be good for a potential joint meeting.
So I could ask her to find, to just check into it. It took her a while to get back with this, and it's not gonna be something she's gonna call me up in an hour or two. I mean, it's gonna be a day or maybe a week, you know. But I could ask her what the county's insurance would go up. And maybe nothing and maybe a little bit, and I don't know.
Well, it was when Julie first came, and I guess I'm gonna turn to you guys and say, is that right? Came and I looked at that and I said, well, that's not our building, that's not our building, you know.
And when the insurance was put out, it's very well, the assumption might have been and everything, because you know and I know, we've tried to educate everybody in the community in one thing and another, that the county does not own those buildings. Those buildings are owned by the rodeo club, and that's the way it is in the lease and one thing and another. And that's why we have so much trouble getting people to pay when they use the barn, because they figure their taxes are paid for all that stuff. They can use that stuff in one thing and another because their tax dollars pay for all of it. And we've tried and tried, we've put I don't know how many articles in the newspapers and one thing and another. But no, they're two separate entities and one thing and another. And it's been through the contributions that the community has given to the rodeo club and what we've made over the years that have made that one of the best facilities. So we've got people, I had people on the phone night before last. They want to rent the facility this summer several times to put on ropings and one thing and another, because it's centrally located and it's better than Helen, cheaper than Helen to rent it. But they claim, for the size and one thing and another, it's the best facility in the state, better than some of the bigger ones. which it is, and we're proud of the fact. But by the same token, you know, it's taken a long time. It hasn't been, as Elaine can say, it hasn't been by county funds and one thing and another.
Mm-mm.
And it's been volunteer work, sweat from the members and whatnot that's done that. And going back to the fire deal, we've kind of, I guess you could say we've mitigated. Actually, I would be more afraid, would have been more afraid of having a fire before the tobacco rule was put in place.
Before the pipe.
Before we did the, you know, you guys laid out that there's no tobacco smoking out there, and one thing, there's no smoking and whatnot. We kind of worked on that. That was another thing. Well, anyway, but the thing of it is for years, the leaves from those trees were just left into there, but we cleaned all those leaves up because we were well aware that somebody could smoke up there and drop a cigarette down there. So we cleaned all those leaves up before anything goes on out there in the summertime. We clean up around the buildings, the weeds and one thing. So we're really, you might say, mitigating the danger of a fire out in that area because it is a public facility.
There's not a lot of things to burn out there.
There's not, no.
2 horse barns.
Where they're metal clad.
Mhm.
All of our buildings are metal clad except the 2 horse barns. Yours are metal clad, ours are metal clad, and one thing and another, and that would be the only thing, you know, that would burn, would be those 2 horse barns. So,
Hey Brenda, do you have just a few minutes? I have a quick question when we're done with John for you.
I'm about
Sure,
done.
I'm gonna run this back to my
Okay,
next one.
thanks.
So, but I'll go down and talk to Julie and see if there would be any difference in premium, say, as,
What if we put metal on those barns?
we've talked about that, we have, especially the one, your barn was the first one out there, and that's the
Mhm.
closest one to and the ropings and one thing and another that they've had through the winters and whatnot, that's where they drive the cattle in the back, and they hold them right there, and then they bring them in the alleyway into the building, and they have kicked some holes, we've replaced boards and stuff like that, but we have talked about doing that, one thing and another, but it's just, it's just a cost that we've kind of prioritized, and we've had some other things, like the handicap seating area, the ticket booth, and one thing and another for handicap and stuff like that, have kind of been a priority rather than those, they've been functional, and now we're to the point that that's probably the next thing, depending on how things go with the Fair Board. They would like us to help them again and put a roll-up door on the north end of the barn. We'll put the one on the south, cost sharing. And I've got to take that to the board Monday, and I think it's a good idea to do that. It'd be so much easier for the kids and one thing or another during 4-H or whatever to get in and out of that building rather than those big heavy doors. They're a little better on that end than they were on the south end because they weren't used. The ones on the south end, the tracks had been rusted out and broken, one thing or another. We was really afraid one of them was gonna fall on somebody. So that's one of the reasons we even took them completely off. They were just dangerous. And the north end is getting to that. That building's old. That building's-
It's very old.
Building's been there a long time. And for years, you know, it never had any maintenance at all. But seems how the Fair Board turned it over to us to use and one thing and another, and we have been doing maintenance on it. And that was one of the things, when they turned it over to us to use and one thing and another, we pay all of the maintenance in it, except for large ticket items like the doors. Then we split the cost of that. And I think the last one was about $7,000. That's how, and I think it cost us around $7,500, something like that. But they took part of it out of their budget and we took the rest out of ours. We split the cost right down the middle. And that's something that we thought about doing. So that's the other thing. I mean, do we, if we turn everything over to you, maintenance, there's a lot of questions if we turn it all over to you guys. Who provides all the maintenance out there as far as that goes, and painting and one thing and another.
Now, your suggestion was you guys would maintain ownership, but we would lease it
Right.
from you, so
Well,
it could
I-
be as simple as that.
I don't look forward to, a lease, I'm not sure whether, I don't know, I just don't know what to do with it, you know. You guys have to, in order to have it on your assets and one thing and another, you guys have to have ownership. That's all there is to it. And I don't foresee the club wanting to do that, but by the same token, I'm not sure that the club is going to take their annual profits and dump back into fire insurance that we might not never use.
Well, the $2,200
Yeah.
speaks loud.
Well, when we got, Mel and I and Janice and everything set down and we did the books here about a month ago, or a little better than a month ago, about 2 months now, I guess time's going. And our profit this year, after everything was paid, one thing, I think it's $1,500. And if you add this in there, why, we're running in a hole. And it's not too, you can do that for a couple of years, but not very long. It's like any business, and Mel, of course, as Lane can attest, he runs that like a business, he knows where every penny goes. And we have to
And how
account
it
for
got there.
it. Yeah,
You know, John, maybe there's another source for this money rather than the rodeo club. With everything that you guys do out there, you are an economic driver for the county, there's no question about that. BCF, Broadwater Community Foundation, has grants. Perhaps you could get a grant to help with this, or for the whole thing. BCDC would be, I would think, a good source for, a grant or something like that. I just wonder if going to some of those entities might be a way to get that insurance paid. You guys maintain ownership and control of your buildings, and you don't hit your profit line
right.
with having to pay for that insurance, and you're building a relationship with the other economic drivers in the
Right.
community, which, you guys have done a magnificent job with FAIR and all the other agencies.
I kind of thought maybe something like that if we could, and one thing and another, but
Yeah,
there again, that's stuff that I've got to take to the board and one thing and another. And the worst part of it, if I don't write it down, I'll kind of forget about it.
You're getting
Yeah.
old like the rest of us, John.
Older, yes, it is. And going back to your suggestion of having a working meeting with both boards and one thing and another, I think that'd be a good idea.
maybe regardless.
We
Good
need to,
idea.
I really think, we meet once a year, the fair board, the whole fair board and the whole rodeo board gets together in September. And that kind of alleviates any problems they brought out, if we have any problems with one thing or another. And maybe it's time that we need to do the same thing with the commissioners, because after all, you guys do own that ground out there. And after the last contract and one thing and another, that was pretty stressful on both, I think everybody, it was. Because at that time, they were talking about cutting it up, selling it for scrap. There was several of the board members that were pretty adamant about doing that.
We don't want to go back there.
And no. I mean, I just can't feature what the community or the county would do without that facility, to tell you the truth. I mean, you look, the money that is generated, not tax-wise and one thing and another, but the Boy Scouts coming in here for that week, look at the money that is generated downtown. They all go downtown several times to buy groceries, they buy fuel to get in and out of here and one thing and another, and all the ropings. Whenever we have a roping or anything out there, they stop in, but they're either at Town Pump or they're at Rocky Mountain, or not as much now as they used to, but they used to frequent the bars quite a bit, one thing and another. So it all trickles down. Everything that goes on out there trickles down into the community and one thing and another, and into which in turn goes back to the county. But
Well, one great thing is that 4-H building is getting used a lot, now that it's got heat.
Right, that's kind of a sore spot, really.
Why?
Because of the fact that there's a couple things. The insurance on that barn, in order to have a function out there, they were always told that they had to buy all this insurance and one thing and another. And when I talked to that adjuster or inspector from NACO, there's 5 years ago or whatever, when I was out there. He said the only reason anybody would have to buy insurance on the, to rent that and use it is if they served alcohol or paid, you charged people to get in. And what's gonna hurt renting that barn or that facility right now is that Watson's got that one down there. And they've already, there's already, two that usually go out there that are going down there now. And it's gonna, so I think the rental on that thing is gonna go downhill.
That's even when we rented it when my son graduated, we had to have rental insurance.
And that Mako guy told me that that's the only way that legally, the only way they could make you buy insurance is if you're selling alcohol, if you're having to function with alcohol out there, or you're charging people to get into that building. But that's a public building covered by Mako's insurance, and it's just double indemnity or whatever.
And well, luckily my homeowners covered it.
Right.
So it was only like a $30 more fee on my homeowners for that. But it covered it for all the families, you know, so we just split that, you know, but, and of course, you know, they were 18-year-old kids, so we didn't have alcohol. But, yeah, we had to show proof of insurance when and that was in 2006.
And to be honest with you, that's coming from the other person was talking about earlier, is where that comes from. And some of those people, when they go to check insurance and one thing, there's $500 to buy insurance, and they can't afford it, consequently, they're not gonna rent that building, they'll go south.
Are Watson's charging to use theirs?
They charge to use it, but as far as I know, the insurance, they've got some kind of policy that unless you're serving alcohol down there, you have to, that'd be the only thing. And that is gonna hurt this building out here.
Well,
As far as the
the
use.
Lincoln Day dinner was held out at Watson's,
Mhm.
and I wasn't aware of any charge against it, other than they charged, you know, because they catered to food and all
Right.
that,
Mhm.
unless it was built right into that.
Or, well, but it's my understanding that they're charging to have any function out there. And that, and that was one of the things when we put the concert on, and we went outside the community to get the donations. And when it got down to where we still needed a little bit of money in one thing, that's when we went to Watson and the lime plant, is about all we went to. And that's one thing Clay said. He said he's building it, at that time it wasn't done, but he said he's building that to rent out in one thing and another. And he said he would be charging a fee. He says they probably, and he said at that time, he said there's people come to him because there was a need, because it was too expensive to rent this one. And it's not that it's expensive to rent this one, it's that insurance that everybody was told they needed to have, they had to have. That was why the year before last, not last year, the year before last, the seniors quit going up there for the party. They couldn't come up with the insurance.
Yeah, several of them went to the Rod and Gun Clubs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, before you leave. I'd like
No,
to-
John,
Huh?
we'll take public comment at the end of the work session
Well,
today.
no, this is
No,
what y'all talk
no,
about.
John.
Why don't you listen
Because we are
sometime?
working with John Walsh and the
Well,
rodeo club, we
you
have two
just said
people
that,
waiting. That's
You
enough,
talk to the sheriff,
John,
you talk to
that
everybody in
is-
here.
no.
What's wrong with me?
that's enough.
What's wrong with me?
Brenda, would
as
you
a
please
citizen?
step in here?
John, can you just wait till the end?
Well, I want him here. He needs to hear this. And
No.
it's a very simple thing. Let's
John?
have a public hearing. And-
John,
Will you ask her?
John, I'm
No.
asking- we got two Johns.
we have
John, do you wait
3
till-
people here who are taking time away from their work to
Okay,
be
if
here
you
to
wait,
take
thank
care of business.
Okay. So,
Now,
problem
Mr.
solved.
Walsh, as far as this insurance goes, would you, maybe, talk to the rodeo club, see about that joint meeting? And then, maybe give Ernie, Forey, and also the chamber, Townsend Area Chamber of Commerce. They are looking to expand outside of Townsend. That would be Mary Ellis. And then Broadwater Community Foundation. I'm not sure who the head of that is. Linda Davis might be a good one to call on that. Or, yeah, or Cheryl, or Carol Plymel. And see if they could help with that insurance for you guys. It seems to me the problem is solved. And maybe, you know, maybe through some discussions, I don't know, creative heads could come up with some ideas.
Right.
But then, we still need to work on that relationship if your club thinks that this is something we're driving, because we support you guys, and I don't think they know that. So if we could have a joint meeting, I think it's important to get.
See, that's, when I called Vince, Vince wanted to know if you guys had signed it, because he knew he was up, you know. That's the first thing out of his mouth.
Yeah,
Commissioners, you know, right.
sure, yeah. And it would be nice for us to get it off our plate as well. We just have to
But,
have
well,
those answers.
I think a joint meeting with the two boards, a pizza meeting or something like this, with just the two boards.
Madam Chairman, I would suggest that we bring in the Fair Board too.
Good idea. Very good
Because
idea.
Yeah, because you guys have built such a nice relationship. I think that's a great idea.
I think the three,
If you're in
Three
agreement.
entities that are concerned with that thing. Now, the city commission, the city council, they didn't even question it. Well, I never even thought about the insurance either, so.
And I don't know if it probably falls to us, the responsibility of the insurance, because we're the bigger entity.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
not
sure.
sure, I'm not sure how, see, I don't know how that whole thing works, seeing as how that's city-county owned. It used to be city-owned, and then in order to get that building, it had to be county, had to be tied into it, that's how it's city-county. It's amazing the county just didn't take the whole thing over.
I think that was right before we came on board.
it was long before that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, was it?
for that.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
that was, how old is that building, do you remember?
That puts an age on me, John.
That's what I was trying to remember, I just,
Well, my younger kids are in their thirties, and it was long before them,
right.
so,
Vince is 50, trying to remember how old Vince is, he's 50-some years old. And,
I think he just turned 50.
yeah, they used to have the Pony Express races, you know, from
Mhm.
Radersburg clear down. And then nobody could see them, so they moved everything, the whole 4th of July function, out to the fairgrounds. And at that time, of course, the track was in there and one thing and another. And we did have some chariot races out there in the 70s, back in the early 70s.
Early 70s.
And then, in order to put the barn up, then the track went by the way of the Y side, so it'd have to be early 70s that, I was thinking maybe 75, that thing was put up.
Wow.
Well, Fran Etzweiler was the clerk and recorder, and Judy Doggett followed her,
Right,
and I followed Judy. It's a long time back, you know. I'll bet it's in the 40s.
yeah, it'd be 40-some years ago that thing's. Read that. So, yeah, it's been there a long time, and one thing and another, and when that went up, then that's when, I think that probably wasn't too many years after that, everybody kind of decided that that was all county-owned property and one thing and another.
Because of the barn.
Because of the fact that it went to city-county. And that was all common knowledge, that the county was taking that over and one thing and another so that they could have that building. It's the only way they could have that building was,
Huh.
and that perception was, and with new people coming in, I mean, there's so many new people moving into the county all the time that it's hard to educate, keep the county educated. Because everybody just figures that my taxes pay for that stuff out there, I'll use it when I want, you know?
Now, question for you then, Does that mean as they pay taxes, does that entitle them to take the road grader and do their road?
Well,
Same gift.
I know,
Right.
it's the same diff, but the thing of it is when we try to get $5 for 3 hours out there and one thing and another, just help pay for the lights and stuff and maintenance on that big barn and one thing and another, or they come out and just use the grounds and one thing and another, and when we locked it up, everybody wanted a key, you know? Well, I want a key to get in there. We had one person that was gonna sue the rodeo club and everybody else because we locked it up. She wanted a key, and we said, no, we're not giving out keys.
Why do you lock it if you're gonna give everybody keys?
Right, right. And I do believe it's helped the sheriff's department, one thing or another, with it being locked up. It's one less thing that they really, I know they used to go in and patrol, but we still had vandalism for the simple reason, those kids, you know, they could go in one gate and go out the other. When the sheriff's department's coming in one, they were going out the other gate, you know, so.
Right,
And it was hard to, and when we locked it up, well, our vandalism outside of the kids going over and shooting the lights out and the windows out with BB guns, and we think that's kids from across the street there, like, we haven't really had any vandalism. It's been great. We could utilize our money that we do have to rebuild something else or work on something else rather than rebuilding vandalism.
which is huge.
So, yeah.
Keeps
Well,
morale too.
I'll take that stuff to the board. I will, talk to the board about it. And, we'll try to set up a date. If they say whenever, then I'll come back to you folks and we'll set up a date
Sounds
as
good.
to when we can have a joint meeting. I mean,
That sounds real good.
And what I'll do is I'll talk to John Rouser also. I'll kind of run this by everybody if that's okay, and we'll try to get everything set together. So we
You
can,
could.
Yeah, thank
rather
you.
than you guys contacting it. And it might be better coming from me than if it comes from you guys. Well, what do they want now? Why are we having, you know, but if it's, because I do know how those mines work. I've been with the rodeo board and those guys long enough that, so I'll do that then, okay?
Okay,
And we'll get it resolved. one way or
Yes.
the other.
absolutely.
Okay.
Sooner rather than later.
Right, sooner better than later, yeah, because everybody wants, you guys want it off your plate, the rodeo board wants it signed and one thing and another, and we just need to get things going.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've all got work to do.
Okay,
Yeah.
I appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot, John, for coming in
Thanks.
today.
Sure. And I will wait around.
Okay, I just have a quick question. I told Brandon we'd get him an answer this morning. The impound yard is yours, but he said that you had suggested that the commission should okay one of the vehicles that doesn't have an engine in it. I said yes for our side, right, but we, yeah, at your request. Is there anything that we should know from the clerk and recorder's perspective, I guess both of you, that would prohibit that?
So what is the question?
Brandon wants to, through the junk vehicle program, get rid of a Crown Victoria in the impound yard. This has to be, of course, the commissioners have to sell or sign the bill of sale, the title, but it is the sheriff's call on what happens with that impound yard. So he was asking if the commission was okay with this. I said yes, but I wanted to double check with you too, since I am only 1/3.
I don't have a problem with it.
You know, fine.
Yeah, it doesn't
Nothing
have
from
a
the
motor.
clerk and recorder's side,
It's that old Crown Vic,
yeah.
the black and white,
No,
that has been there for
Mm.
years and years.
So would you just tell Brandon, we said absolutely go for it?
Okay, have you guys signed that title?
We just need it.
You already had it from quite a while ago.
Is that the one you said you wanted to talk to
Yeah,
us about? Okay, yeah, I was just holding it with our
Okay.
mail until we
Yeah.
heard from you. Okay, yeah, I'll just sign it today with Ann as soon as we're done here.
Okay,
All right,
okay,
thanks. And that's all I wanted.
okay,
All right,
okay.
so, next, is Doug. You know what, let's go ahead and, since you're waiting, John, did you have a question
Yes, I
for?
had a very-
Let me just clarify one thing. Per statute, working meetings do not actually take public comment. And it's just so that we can work with the people who are professionals in the particular areas that we're working on. Right now, it's restructuring to make sure that we don't just start adding people knee-jerking like was done in the past, that we
It doesn't
evaluate
say that.
where people are at. But anyway,
It
that
doesn't
is,
say that. I wouldn't make the
John,
time to come here if I
I'm
couldn't
going out on
help
a limb to let you have public comment in the middle of our meeting,
Well,
clarifying the law.
you know, you either
and the
gotta have a
structure.
rule or you don't have a rule.
I am following the rule, but I'm making an exception for you, so
Oh,
behave
okay.
yourself.
Well, I thank you.
You're welcome. What is your public comment?
Now, with all the confusion that you're talking, even if there wasn't a problem about the board out here at the fairgrounds, even if there wasn't a problem, you created enough confusion here to confuse a maggot. Now, why don't you make this a public hearing where us citizens can become a little bit more informed? Because right now, we're totally in the dark. Totally. Let's have a public meeting. Is that too much to ask?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You're in the dark as to what?
Everything that's going on out there.
Well,
Every time we get a little bit of information, it's completely distorted by the other source.
for one thing, the rodeo club is a private entity. We're not governed by the county, we're not governed by the city, we're a private entity.
Uh-huh.
Just like Rocky Mountain Supply or any business downtown, we're just a business.
Mhm.
However, we do lease the ground from the county and the city because it's jointly owned. It's jointly owned, so we lease that.
But if there's any county taxes, whatever, one dime going into that, we have
There
a
is
say.
not, there is not a dime. That's what we've been trying to tell the community and the public for years and years and years. There is no county funds utilized out there to do anything with. That is our money as a private entity because we foot the bill, we furnish the paint, we maintain the rodeo arena and the buildings out there because those are ours. There's no county money. Therefore, there should not be a public meeting to tell a private entity what they can do.
Well, and what you're trying to promote is the county to come into it and start paying.
No, we're not, that's not what we're trying to do.
Well, that's what it sounds like to me.
Well, I never promoted that issue. What we're trying to do is settle,
Okay.
fire insurance on buildings out there.
Okay, and that is covered by the county, our taxpayers.
No, they're not. We have no insurance right now.
None?
No, not fire insurance.
Oh, my word.
But John, what he's saying is they're their buildings.
Okay.
They're ours, they're not county.
Do you have any objection for us citizens to be able to set into this meeting and make a public meeting out of it? And let us get these things cleared up so we can understand.
Well, to be honest with you, John, we've put this in the paper many times, trying to clear it up in one thing and another, and our meetings are all open to the public. We've always said that in one thing and another, and we have a hard time getting the members there, let alone anybody else. When you meet at 7 o'clock at night, nobody wants to come.
Right.
Once they get kicked back in one thing and another, nobody wants to come to meetings. In this day and age, nobody wants to get involved unless it's something to benefit them. That's the only time they'll get involved.
And the only difference between right here and in most all of these things, you're here and I'm here, because I'm here to try to learn, try to be informed, and try to do the best I can with it, because the more I look into all of this going on in this county, I get more confused. And I understand English. I have enough education to read and write.
Okay?
I know what my constitutional
Right.
rights are, and I'd like to have this as a public hearing, so let's resolve exactly.
It does concern the public because we're a private entity, so therefore it does not concern the public.
You're going before, they're spending money just to have this meeting
No,
with
they're
you.
not. No, they're not. They're not spending a dime. They're gonna take out of the goodness of their heart, they're gonna take their time, rather than staying home with their family, they're gonna take their time and come to our board meeting, our meeting, we'll make it our meeting. They're gonna have a joint session with us that does not concern anything, it's not a county meeting or anything.
Well, my understanding of costs to the county taxpayers, that you can't even walk down that hall, you can't turn on the lights, you can't talk to our sheriff, you can't talk to the commissioners, because they're all being paid. So that's a false statement you just made.
Okay, you know what? We're done. Thank you very
Can-
much,
can
John.
we have a
Appreciate
meeting?
you staying. Very
Public?
much.
Thanks.
John, that's
Okay.
enough.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Thank you both,
Thanks,
all of you, thank you much.
All right.
All right. Good.
One word, I'm sorry for you guys.
Come on down, sir.
I
I've been, making a couple of emails, about our IT services to see what's out there, what's available. I checked with all of the treasurers in the state and just to see what they're using. A lot of them, the bigger counties have their own IT people that they hire. Most of them that contract it out are either going through DIS or Morrison Merrily. I've got an email to both of them asking them what information they would need from the county as far as giving us a quote.
What is DIS, John? Doug?
DIS is, trying to think, they're out of Billings.
Digital,
Digital Information Services or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. He's usually at most of the conferences. Matt, can't think of his last name. Pretty knowledgeable guy. He's been at almost every treasurer's conference I've ever been to. And the only thing I've heard about him, most counties say he's a little expensive. So that's what, there is one, I had one county send me a name from Helena, and I've got it written downstairs, Helena Information Technology or something. And they're happy with them. There's one firm in Billings that's kind of a local Billings firm, but just trying to get some numbers together, you know, so. If we ever decide to contract IT services out, we'll have an idea who we can go to and how much it'll be. Other than that, I'm still looking at my job descriptions for the office. I haven't got any numbers together, you know, what the salaries would be, but what I was trying to do was take my deputy treasurer's salary and just kind of disperse it with all the people in the office, so it wouldn't be a raise to the, or it wouldn't be an increase in my budget. It would just, instead of one person making 5,000 a year, it might be 5 people making 1,000 a year. But I haven't got the numbers worked out quite yet on that.
Well, and you'd have to have current job descriptions, would you not?
Right, yeah. That's what's kind of been holding me up. The Mako website, to get on their job descriptions, you have to have a password. Debbie's the one that has that, so she just sent it to me last night, so I should be able to work on it today. Get a little more information.
Yeah, that's a good question.
no, absolutely.
Brenda, you use Morrison Merrily when you have problems usually? And how are they to work with?
Oh, they're good to work with, but they're expensive. I mean, they're like anybody.
I think they're all
But-
expensive.
But they're
anymore.
local, you know, they come right down. The city uses them, the bank uses them. So,
They gave us a presentation a couple of years ago, and as they're not contracted, their hourly rate is huge, I forget what it is. As a contract, that would be about a third of what we're paying right now. One of the things, though, that prohibited us from going with Morrison Merrily years ago is they wanted an opening package that was extremely expensive, and I don't remember the number right now. But to do an evaluation to get started, and then they wanted to sell us a new server that everything would go through. It was prohibitive. But in lieu of having nothing else, and maybe the fact that you and the county attorney's office already use them, we could get that lowered, negotiate whether it's needed, get the lower hourly rate. I don't know, it's an option.
I also had a guy from, well, I had the chairman of Black Mountain drop by and see me yesterday. There have been about 5 counties that have dropped Tyler Technologies and went to Black Mountain within the last 3 or 4 months. They're just getting fed up with Tyler Technologies. I know every time I call them, it's 4 or 5, 6 hours waiting for them to call you back, and when you've got a problem that you're trying to get something worked out, that's just not acceptable. spend your whole day spinning your wheels waiting for them to get back to you. And when I first started and ended up going down to Billings for 3 days for training, it wasn't actually training, it was 3 days of figuring out what had happened on Tyler's system. They had let one of their IT people in their office left something open, which allowed us to double interface, so we had the same amounts out there in 2 or 3 places. And it really wasn't our problem at all, it was their problem. They still charged us $3,000 for me to go down there and get it fixed. And just,
They still charged you?
mhm.
Well, that's, just so you know, one thing with Morrison Merrily, they messed up something, I shouldn't say they messed up something. The equipment they installed here messed up something, and it cost them like close to $20,000,
Mm.
and they didn't charge me a dime.
Nice. And that's the way it should work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
See, and when I talked to Black Mountain, he said most of their backup is done in the cloud, which takes away most of your IT, your need for IT. I mean, it sounds like their system is a lot simpler than Tyler's. Tyler Technology has progress and they have visions. One is kind of the receipt side and one is the report side. And the only way for those 2 sides to talk to each other is to do an interface, which is where we ran into problems. Black Mountain's system is all, there's no interface, it's all on the same level. So he said you don't have the interfaces. The school's on Black Mountain, the city's on Black Mountain. So it would make it easier to send the reports and get the reports and the journals and everything to the
Is
school.
Black Mountain, is that a program?
Hmm.
Is that a program?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I got a question, in the clouds, do they even have to come, or can they do it right from their office, when you say
right, yeah, it's done automatically every night,
Yeah.
no,
so.
We're in the clouds
is that right?
now. So if something happens to our detention center, or to our office, and nothing will ever will, but let's say we completely lose, or we have to lift and go somewhere else, we can access all of our information from Lewis and Clark County or Gallatin County, you know, because we need that vital information,
yeah.
you know.
But there's just been a lot of problems with Tyler. I bet we have 30 different printers on our computer, and probably only 10 that work. Each time you buy a new printer, they have to put it into the system, so I can print from it, Joyce can print from it, Melissa can print from it, whoever needs it. But none of the other ones are ever taken off. It's the way they put them in, they kind of use the format from the old printer to put the new printer on. And every time we go to print from the back room, if we put a new printer in, you're printing to 10 different printers to find out which printer, what the name of that printer is. It's crazy. I've asked them 3 or 4 times to clean it up, and they think that should be our IT department doing it. Well, our IT department, first of all, there is none. Second of all, it wasn't our IT department that put it in there, it was Tyler. But they're just getting hard to work with, and most of the treasurers I've talked to are under the same opinion. I know Bonnie Ramey from Jefferson County is going to Tyler, or to Black Mountain in April. He named about 4 counties yesterday that have when he's talking to Marr County, they're thinking about going to Black Mountain. So they're based in, they have an office in Helena, they have an office in Kalispell, that just,
Olson.
a lot more a lot more friendly and personable to work with, and they've been around for a long time. They're compatible with Windows 8. Tyler isn't. When Bev came on board and I had to buy a computer for her, we thought we would have to. I went to Office Depot, got a computer with tons of memory, everything we needed for less than $500. Had Windows 8 on it, so we couldn't use it. So I called Tyler to buy a computer. We ended up spending almost $1,200 for them to refurbish a computer with Windows 7 on it so we could use it. And it's just crazy. It's just, they're not a very user-friendly company.
No.
There's one person there that knows the progress and the vision side both and how they all work together, and that's Dion Adams. And if Dion ever leaves, God help us, 'cause I don't think anybody at Tyler will be able to.
Are you tied in with them on a contract now?
Is
With this Tyler, are you on a contract with them right now?
Yeah, we're on a yearly contract with them.
When does that come?
I think it probably goes by our fiscal year.
July?
Yeah. When I talked to Black Mountain, he said he didn't recommend, if we would switch to him, he didn't recommend doing that at fiscal year end, because we've got so much going on that it's hard to train people, it's hard to move information when you, especially at fiscal year end, because we're going from one year to the other year, back and forth all the time anyway, so.
Did he
But he said that
suggest,
he's got a demo that he's gonna work out with Marr County, and he's not sure when he's gonna do that. It'll be sometime within the next couple of weeks. So he's gonna try and work it out to where he could come and demo their system for us on
nice,
his way to Marr County. So I'll keep you guys informed and let you know when that's gonna be. I
I'd
think,
love to see what it does.
I think it's, the biggest problem is I think it's about $128,000 to get set up with them.
that was gonna be my question, is there a switching fee?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
And
one of
that
my
would
biggest-
benefit your office and finance and accounting only, right?
Yeah, it does deal with the Department of Revenue a little bit. They deal with it,
But that would be,
most of their information comes from the state system, so they just have access to Tyler, just so they can send over the tax bills. So it really, it affects them in a way that they would have to learn the Black Mountain system, but not in any kind of financial.
Do they have any of the recording stuff?
They do recording. Ann asked me if it was possible not to go to recording, because she said most of the clerks that she's talked to within the state say that Tyler's recording DocuPro is much better than Black Mountain's. So, but I'm gonna have him show that to us too.
and to learn if it could be Tyler for recording, Black Mountain for the other, would be nice to
He could
have
do
some
that.
answer
Yeah,
on that.
that is, he said that was a possibility.
Okay.
Do
we pay for Tyler annually?
We pay him yearly. I'm not sure, I'd have to double check and see what it is.
That would be good to have that when we're looking at a potential 120 for Black Mountain, what is it
Right.
for Tyler? It lessens that number.
Yeah, we pay them, we have a yearly contract with them, and we pay them for each user on the Tyler system. We pay for Tammy and Debbie and my office, and anyone that uses it.
Okay.
Which really, those are the only two choices we have, is Tyler and Black Mountain. That's the only two games in town.
Yeah.
Tyler has been kind of bad mouthing Black Mountain, saying that they're all their stuff's out of date and they're not gonna be able to keep going. But Tyler, Black Mountain's the one that is compatible with the most recent Windows operating system. Black Mountain is not. Black Mountain, we've switched just in the last, probably, or Tyler, we've switched probably the last 4 years, 3 different times how we do our backups. And we have to take a backup tape to the bank every day and grab another tape and put it in, and that's the only way the backups get done. And we've switched that backup format 3 times in the last 4 years. So backing up in the clouds, I think would probably be a lot more.
Who was the
dependable,
predecessor to Tyler? Years ago, it was CSA, and then,
Right.
Okay.
CSA just went to Tyler about a year ago. Who's the manager? Is that what you wanted?
well, no, I thought there was some other initials they called it by, but,
Oh, no, it was CSA and then they went to Tyler.
and Dave Morton is at Black Mountain, is he not? And he's been there for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been there.
More
probably
years
as
than I'll
long as our
admit to.
roping barn's been out to the rodeo.
Mhm.
It's been a while. But yeah, they're just Tyler's getting in, just in my opinion, they're getting too big. They're trying to branch out to too many other states and too many other counties, and they're just getting, I mean, we used to call and we'd go directly to Billings, you get somebody that could help you. Now you might go to Arizona, you might go to
Oh, really?
Texas, yeah, you never know. And when you get one of those, I've talked to several people in Arizona and it's like talking to a fence post, you have to explain the system to them so you can explain what you're trying to do before they can even begin to help you. It's just getting,
We
When
might
you,
build, go ahead, I'm sorry.
when you call Morrison Merrily, do you always get somebody in Helena? Or,
Always, yeah. Yeah. We call right to the Helena office, or we call them right on their cell phone if it's after hours or weekend.
Do you use, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no?
Do you use Morrison Merrily, for, I know you use it for the technical stuff, would you use it to get a new computer set up, marry it to the printer, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you can find out from some of the people you've been emailing, if we couldn't perhaps have 2 IT. And this, I think, would be cost savings, Morrison Merrily for the technical stuff, and maybe somebody who could be an IT person for marrying the printers, for troubleshooting simple stuff, for putting programs on. What Debbie's doing right now is probably something that a local IT person could help with. Then we're looking at probably 15, 20 an hour versus, 100 to 300.
And that's what I was gonna ask you, even though you've got Black Mountain, because I know the city does too, will you still need an IT person? I mean, Black Mountain, I'm guessing, like you say, is the program that you're gonna be in, will you still need an IT person to, install it? Or will they install it, the initial, that's why I'm asking.
no, they would do all the installation on the Black Mountain software. Really, the only thing we need an IT person for is just the local offices, whatever.
Right, and we don't
Like
need
this.
Morrison Merrily to be doing that at their cost. But somebody who could do that simple stuff cannot do the technical that Morrison Merrily is so good at, that you need so badly in
Yeah,
your
because I've got
department.
all those different programs in mind. I've got
Right.
the Swift, and it has to be on all my computers.
Yeah, see, once they get the Black Mountain software, if we go that way on the computers, the IT and, the IT part of the Black Mountain
Would that be covered by Black
is
Mountain?
covered by them. And
Okay,
according to Dave, when I talked to him yesterday, there's really, the IT as far as Black Mountain that we would have to work on is nil.
Oh, nice. There would still be a need, of course, for maintenance, for commissioners, for extension, for weed, you know, the other departments that don't have the technical that you do, the Black Mountain that you would potentially have, but have just still operating systems that occasionally you need some help with that don't have that expertise, other than Morrison Merrily, which is way too expensive for the simple stuff, but is so necessary for the complex.
What would it take if we switched to Black Mountain for them to load everything that's in Tyler into their system?
That was one of the biggest questions I asked him yesterday. He said most of it they have procedures in place to transfer the information, tax bills, things like that. They do have a process in place where they can transfer that data to the cloud and then put it in a format that we could pull it off on the Black Mountain system. He said he would look into that a little more and let me know a little more about it when it comes down to demo it.
Well, anytime I've ever been through a conversion with programs, with computers, it's a headache.
Yeah.
It's the nicest thing I can say.
Yeah, well, and that's a good question, because I just started looking into having all of our tax documents microfilmed. And the quote I got for 1 year of microfilming, and I've got it written down, but I wasn't even thinking of that, but it seemed like it was about $700 for 1 year. And our tax records go back on Tyler, I think, to 96. So we're talking at $700 a year. That's a pretty substantial piece of money to have them put that in microfilm. But I think that's something that should have been done all along, maybe. The way it is right now, we're just taking copies of tax records and putting them down in the basement. Well, our basement is beyond full. When you start printing 4,000 tax bills and you take a copy of those plus all of the documentation that the Department of Revenue gives us for taxes, plus all of the payments that come in for taxes, it's mind-boggling how much paper there is to just 1 year's worth of taxes. And to put it on microfilm, it's pretty easily kept. And
There used to be a company, and I'm saying very, very carefully because it was back in the 90s. I don't know if they're still around. I think they were from Minnesota, I say carefully. And I had them come and they microfilmed all the big books in the back on the clerk's side. And they came right here and did it, and then, so we had it on tape.
yeah, and I know this company that I had come down, the way that they do a lot of their documents is by photograph. They'll actually take a photograph of the document and put that on microfilm. They were pretty interested in doing all the commissioner minutes on microfilm and keeping copies of it. There was another company that would really like to do it, and it would really be neat for the commissioner minutes, especially in like the Townsend Star, because they do it by photograph also, and they put it on into the computer to where you pull it up on a web page. Anyone could go in there and pull up all of the commissioner minutes and if they wanted to do a search and find out, just for instance, anytime John Wright's name was mentioned in the commissioner meeting, or anytime he made a comment, and just typed in his name, it would bring up every single meeting that had his name in it.
Fantastic.
Holy
They
smokes.
could do that, they could do that at home on their own computer.
So
Um,
do you still get money for the recording in your office, $1 for
For-
every, for a set of documents, so to speak,
To make copies of them
to,
for people.
no, there's a fund, and I can't think of the name on it.
Oh, record preservation fund.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's still there, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's part of what we were thinking about using for the documents. Of course, that's only for clerk and recorder.
Mhm.
Taxes is on the treasurer's side. And that always seemed kind of funny to me. The clerk and recorder has a record preservation fund, but nobody else does. And taxes are a record that you have to keep
Forever.
forever. There should be a record preservation
Clerk and recorder?
fund for taxes.
Pardon me?
Can the treasurer file them with the clerk and recorder? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know, it's your office.
I would guess not, because that came from legislatures where that first came from. So there's probably something in the codes that say,
Yeah,
and I don't know for sure, but
it might just be something that I have to look at and budget for, if you had to budget. If you got it down to where you were working on just the current year to, microfilm the taxes and you got it down to $700 a year, that's a pretty small budget item. It's just something that I don't think has ever been looked at before. And we're to the point now where it needs to be looked at. And this company that does the microfilm would actually do 2 copies, where we could keep 1 copy in the treasurer's office and another copy in a vault somewhere, or,
well, this was a couple, and they were probably middle-aged. And I can see them, but I cannot even think of their name. And they went around to all the different counties and would do this.
and they were from Michigan, you think?
Well, Minnesota, Michigan, right in there someplace. And I just can't remember, we set them up in the break rooms where we set them up. And they had their big camera in there and,
Well, I know most of our documents now go right onto the computer, so, for the most recent stuff, I don't think it's gonna be quite as big a deal as it is for the older stuff that's back in the vault and the big books.
well, and what we had to do was go clear back, because there's books clear back in the 1800s down there with all kinds of information, and so they microfilmed all that.
Yeah. Yeah, and when they came and asked for, they wanted to take a couple of documents with them and microfilm them and send us a copy to let us know what they look like. We found there were several old microfilm documents in the basement that's the only copy, is the one in the basement.
So if we had a fire or something, heaven forbid,
Right. So they did some of those old copies and let us know what it would cost us to make another copy of those. Then we just have to decide where to,
so were
Keep
they
it.
good copies?
what's that?
When they sent you the copies of the microfilm that they did,
Hmm.
were they good copies?
They were very good. Yeah, they did a very good job. That's something, if we were to switch from Tyler to Black Mountain, I think that's something um, might wanna have them look at is the information that's on Tyler and have that microfilm before the switch, just for record preservation's sake. Again, you're looking 99 to 2014, that's,
It's a lot of documents.
mhm. At $600 to $700 a year. It's almost 20 years worth.
Well, and the truth of the matter is, we've got to do something.
Right, yeah, I think it's something that, the information age just kinda blew right by us and it's like we weren't paying attention. And now it's time to pay attention because we're just running out of places for everything.
I mean, storage in this building is nil.
Yeah,
Every nook and cranny is filled.
it is,
I wouldn't have it over here.
yeah.
They don't have it down.
But, yeah,
They don't have
I can talk with these people again and get the exact numbers, but it's gonna be,
I'd like to see a copy of something to do.
yeah, we have some down in
We do.
the office. They send us,
State don't have to do
I
that.
think, 5 or 6
This is county business.
microfiche that they
Yeah.
copied and sent back to us. In fact, they asked me for a copy of a tax bill so they could do an overlay and all of our tax bills would come out on the microfilm looking just like our tax bills print.
When I asked her for a direct answer,
And they decided that would raise the cost too much to do it that way.
she keeps
Due
saying
to-
challenge.
They would have too much hands-on work doing that. So, but no, the copies are very good, they're easy to see. And microfiche, whether you like it or not, is the one form of data usage that just seems to be ongoing. It's the one that they say will last the longest and be here. I mean, since we went to computers, when computers first came in, you had that little 3.5-inch floppy. You can't find a computer that uses them anymore.
Oh,
And,
I'm sure not.
and we went from there to CDs. We're going from CDs to the little USB cards, and from there to the clouds, and from the clouds, who knows where we're gonna end up.
We're getting closer to heaven.
Yeah,
Revelation.
yeah, but so, I just think that, that's something, and that might be something even to consider, I don't know, for how many other departments would need it, the county attorney or the justice of the peace, I don't know, clerk of district court.
So are most of the clerk and quarters, treasurers, whichever, with Tyler, or are they with Black Mountain?
Most of the clerk and recorders
Or the
documents.
treasurers, yeah.
They're with Tyler. Oh, most of the treasurers in the state?
Yes.
I think probably there are more with Tyler than there are with Black Mountain, but, I couldn't give you the percentage. I don't think it's a big percentage more. I know there are a lot of them that still use Black Mountain. Pam Watson just happened to walk in when I was talking to Dave from Black Mountain, and she was so excited. Are you going to Black Mountain? And I said, well, I'm looking into it. She thought it would be a wonderful thing.
Because they're with
Just
Black
because
Mountain.
it would, yeah, it would make it so much easier for her reports and my reports, and,
That makes sense, in the city
The-
too.
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, one thing that Black Mountain does that Tyler doesn't do, that would kind of save us some time in the office. Every day we go to the bank with our deposit, we have to pick up a transmittal form that the bank gives us with checks for payroll and for school and we have to input that into the Tyler system. Bev does that all by hand, she has to input each one of those in. Black Mountain has a way, has it set up, there would have to be new checks printed, so he said we tell people not to print new checks, just wait till their checks run out and then start the new ones. But they put a barcode on the checks, and when the bank barcodes that check into the banking system, then it goes automatically into the Black Mountain system and takes that whole step completely away. It's just all done automatically.
So, and did I understand you say the bank is with Black Mountain?
No, the school and the city are both with Black Mountain. I don't think the bank really has to be with Black Mountain or Tyler, either one there. But Black Mountain has a barcode on their, can put a barcode on the checks where when the bank barcodes the checks into their system, it would automatically barcode it into Black Mountain, the payroll checks. And
That would sure help and save time
yeah,
and manpower.
just make everything go a little smoother and easier.
How much time do you think that will save, say in a week? How much time do you think it would save in a week? Just that one process?
Oh. In a payroll week, it would probably save 10 to 12 hours.
Wow, that's significant.
Just something to look into. I know Tyler's just getting so hard to work with. They're just,
That's another piece too, compared to that 120,000, is the amount of time saved. That 10 to 12
Right.
hours times the salary of that employee is directly comparable to that 120.
yeah. But when he gets in touch with me and lets me know when he'll come down to do his demo, I'll email all you guys and let you know, and
Thank you. Yeah.
we can at least see what it looks like and any questions you have.
Now, Black Mountain is one that's 120 grand to start out.
Yeah. We haven't gotten that far into it with him yet, but I think that probably is,
Negotiable.
well, there are things that we can take off that he had on that quote that we probably wouldn't need. I think we can get that down a little bit. And I think that's probably gonna involve that, or that's probably gonna include the first year,
Contract.
Contract.
Roughly what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. But before he comes next time, I'll look into what we're paying CSA each year, see what that is. I know they charge us for each user. So,
And I can't remember what it used to be.
yeah,
That's too far back.
yeah.
That wouldn't replace CSA, would it? Black Mountain, would that replace CSA?
It would replace them completely, other than if we kept CSA for the documents.
Okay, so that would affect accounting as well and payroll, wouldn't it? They would have to also
Yeah.
go to Black Mountain.
Yep.
Okay,
And do they come and train people?
Mhm. Yeah, that's why they don't like doing it during the year end, because they say it's too, the people don't have the time to sit and listen and learn their system. They're too busy trying to get the
And that makes sense.
year end done, yeah.
when do they suggest? Do they have a particular set of months that,
He would really like to do it before year end.
so like March versus
March,
January?
April, yeah.
March, April.
Yeah.
So if he was gonna be coming to do this, demo with Broadwater County in the next couple weeks, is he hoping that we would actually do this in the next couple of weeks?
I
Especially since our
think that's
Tyler
what he would be
contract?
hoping. I'm not sure that I would go by his time schedule. I think
I think we
I
have
think
to,
it's our decision.
No, and I understand
yeah,
that, and I guess I'm
that's-
wondering, would you be of that thought as well? You wanna switch over
Not necessarily.
ASAP, or
I'm
maybe
not
get it
looking to jump right into this. And,
So
you know,
you're just
I
kind of
wanna-
posing
I
ideas
wanna
at this
make
point.
sure that it would be a better solution than what we have.
Yeah,
I would really kind of like to wait, because I have a pretty good rapport with Bonnie Ramey in Jefferson County, and she is going to it in April. I really would kind of like to wait and see, and she's with Tyler with everything, with DocuPro, taxes, everything. And she's switching all of it to Black Mountain. So I would kind of like to wait and see how it goes for Jefferson County, see what they think about it,
smart.
and,
well, and at that cost, I think we'd have to do an RFP. We'd have to go out to bid on that.
yeah, depending on what we pay, Tyler for our yearly contract.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd have to go
Yeah.
public and ask for,
Yeah, I don't think
For
it's
bids.
something that we wanna just jump into overnight.
No.
I wanna make sure it's actually gonna benefit us instead of just benefit Black Mountain.
No, absolutely, and I think you're wise to kind of let Bonnie kind of test it for you, give you some
Well, and
firsthand
it hasn't
feedback.
been 2 months since Bonnie was asking me to go to DocuPro. DocuPro actually has a new, way that they do their documents, for the title companies. And she was asking me if I was going to that.
Is
Cause
that
she had
with
just
Tyler?
went to it. What's that?
DocuPro's with Tyler, right?
Right, yeah, but and this was still with Tyler, but it's just a different way. Right now, if a title company wants to access our documents, they pay a monthly fee. Usually it's around $150 a month for them to be able to access our documents from their computers.
Okay,
And the new DocuPro that they have, goes on a page-by-page cost instead of a monthly cost. And Bonnie went to it 3 or 4 months ago and wanted to know if I was going to it, so we could get our fees about the same as Jefferson County. And the cost to go to it, to me, didn't seem worth. We've only got 2 title companies that pay us a monthly fee to get into it. It would help smaller title companies that wanna come and just do 1 or 2 a month. But, it's gonna cost us a lot of money to make it accessible for 1 or 2 people, and it's just.
what title companies can get in? Surety
Rocky
Title?
Mountain and Surety,
Yeah.
yeah, the rest of them drive to Townsend and look on our system. That's their cost of doing business.
Both of those have been there for a long, long time.
They have, and they are real easy to work with, and just super people, most of them.
Mhm. And very helpful.
Yeah, if we have a question and need to talk to them, they drop everything.
And if we did baby steps, so to speak, and let Bonnie get hers up and running, we could learn a heck of a lot from her.
Right, yeah. And I told Dave when I talked to him, I said, we're in a lot of transitions right now. I mean, it's probably not gonna be something that we're just gonna decide overnight. It's gonna be, there's a lot of people involved, and, in fact, I called Debbie over and kinda asked her when the best time to have Black Mountain show up to demo that would be, so she could pick the date that didn't interfere with payroll or anything for her, so. Yeah, I think it's gonna affect our finance office just as much as it does my office.
So would they demonstrate it here or?
Yep.
Okay.
So, I'll just, when I hear from them, you'll hear from me. But that's about all I have. I'll keep working on the finances and see what we,
Might have to buy a lottery ticket.
what's that?
Might have to buy a lottery ticket so we have money to do that.
Yeah, that, I know, 128,000